The most dangerous mistake a man can make isn't trusting the wrong enemy. It's failing to recognize the person who already bled to keep him alive. The rain had been falling for hours, turning Manhattan into a city of blurred lights and silent reflections. Every passing car dragged ribbons of water across the pavement, while the wind rattled the windows of my tiny apartment hard enough to make Noah glance up from his coloring book. "Mom, is the storm angry?" he asked. I forced a smile. "No, sweetheart. It's just loud." The lie came easily. Mothers learned to make fear sound harmless. My phone vibrated against the kitchen counter. Unknown number. For a moment, I considered ignoring it. Bills, debt collectors, unwanted offers. They all seemed to find single mothers eventually. Instead, I answered. "Claire Bennett." The voice was calm. "Male. Professional. Yes. Someone will arrive in 15 minutes. Please don't leave your apartment." The line went dead. A cold weight settled in my stomach. I checked the locks without thinking. Twice. Noah looked up again. "Who's coming?" "I don't know." That time, it wasn't a lie. Exactly 14 minutes later, headlights washed across the rain-soaked street below. Not one vehicle. 4 black SUVs stopped in perfect formation outside my building. Their doors opened simultaneously. Men in dark suits stepped into the rain without umbrellas, moving with the quiet precision of soldiers who had repeated the same choreography 1,000 times. Every instinct told me to run. But where? By the time the knock came, they had already surrounded the building. 3 measured knocks. No shouting. No threats. That somehow made them even more frightening. I opened the door only a few inches. A man with silver at his temples held out a leather folder. "Ms. Bennett, I don't sign anything. You won't have to." His expression never changed. "Mr. Damien Moretti requests your presence." The name meant nothing to me, until another man quietly added, "You may know him by another title." He paused. "The Mafia Boss." My heartbeat stumbled. I'd heard stories. Everyone in New York had. Stories about a man who never raised his voice because he never needed to. A man who could make judges disappear from courtrooms and criminals disappear from maps. "I think you've made a mistake," I whispered. "We rarely do." Behind me, Noah walked into the hallway holding his stuffed dinosaur. "Mama." Every suit outside noticed him. Not one spoke. The older man lowered his eyes for the first time. "Your son will remain safe." Safe. People only promise safety when danger already existed. "I am not going anywhere." "You are." "No." His jaw tightened almost invisibly. Then he opened the folder. Inside was a photograph. It showed me, leaving the grocery store yesterday, holding Noah's hand. Another photo, picking him up from school. Another, walking home last Tuesday. Someone had been watching us for days, maybe weeks. My knees nearly gave out. "Why?" The man answered with unsettling honesty. "Because someone else has been watching you too." The room became painfully quiet. Rain tapped against the windows. Noah slipped his small hand into mine. I squeezed it so tightly he looked up in confusion. "I don't understand." "You don't need to." His voice softened by a fraction. "You only need to understand one thing." He closed the folder. "Whether you come willingly or not, tonight decides whether your son grows up with a mother." Before I could answer, another black SUV pulled to the curb. Unlike the others, only one man stepped out. Tall, broad shoulders beneath a perfectly tailored black coat. Dark hair slicked back. A neatly kept beard framed a face carved from cold restraint, while the ink of intricate tattoos disappeared beneath the collar of his shirt and along one hand exposed by the rain. He didn't hurry. He simply walked through the storm as though the city belonged to him. Every guard lowered his head the instant he approached. His pale gray eyes settled on me for exactly 3 seconds. Not curious, not cruel, calculating, like I was nothing more than another move in a game he had already won. Damien Moretti had come in person, and although I didn't know it yet, the man standing in my doorway believed I was the perfect bait to catch someone else. He had no idea that fate had already tied our lives together years before either of us remembered. A mother doesn't negotiate with fear. She negotiates with time, hoping she can buy her child one more tomorrow. The leather seats smelled of cedar and expensive cologne. I had never been inside a vehicle that quiet before. Not because luxury muted every sound. Because 6 armed men had learned to breathe without making one. Noah slept against my shoulder, his small hand wrapped around the faded dinosaur he'd refused to leave behind. I stroked his hair while pretending not to notice the convoy moving through Manhattan with military precision. No sirens. No speeding. Traffic simply moved out of the way. Power didn't always shout. Sometimes it only arrived. No one spoke during the 30-minute drive. The man with silver at his temples sat across from me, reading documents as though transporting frightened women was part of an ordinary Tuesday. I finally broke the silence. Where are you taking us? He closed the folder. Somewhere safe. I don't believe you. You don't have to. His answer irritated me more than if he had threatened me. People who held real power never wasted words proving it. The city disappeared behind us. Steel became trees. Apartment buildings gave way to stone walls, iron gates, and acres of private land hidden from the world. The gates opened before our convoy reached them. Someone had been watching us long before we arrived. The mansion looked less like a home than a fortress pretending to be one. White stone, towering windows, security cameras hidden inside carved statues. Men positioned where ordinary guests would never notice them. I counted 12 before we even reached the entrance. The front doors opened. No servants greeted us. Only Damien Moretti. He stood beneath the chandelier with his hands behind his back. Black dress shirt, dark trousers. The sleeves rolled neatly to his forearms, revealing intricate tattoos winding across pale skin before disappearing beneath the fabric. His beard was perfectly trimmed. His expression wasn't. Cold wasn't the right word. Cold still implied emotion. He looked inevitable. His gray eyes landed on Noah first. Then me. Your son will be taken upstairs. I stepped backward immediately. No. A nanny appeared from another hallway. Middle-aged. Kind eyes. No weapon. No fear. I'll stay with him, she said softly. I didn't move. Damien watched the exchange without interrupting. Finally, he spoke. If I wanted leverage, Ms. Bennett. His voice remained calm. I wouldn't need to hide it. Every instinct screamed not to trust him. But Noah rubbed his sleepy eyes. I'm tired, Mommy. I crouched in front of him. You stay with the nice lady, okay? He looked uncertain. You'll come. I promise. Children believe promises because they don't yet know how often adults break them. He kissed my cheek before taking the nanny's hand. I watched until he disappeared around the corner. Only then did I realize how empty the room suddenly felt. Damien gestured toward the fireplace. Sit. I'd rather stand. As you wish. He remained exactly where he was. No intimidation. No shouting. No theatrics. Just patience. Oddly, that frightened me more. You've been asking yourself why you're here. I already know why. Oh, you need a hostage. For the first time, one corner of his mouth moved. Not quite a smile. More like curiosity. You're intelligent. I'm terrified. They often coexist. He walked toward the fire with slow, measured steps. I don't need a hostage. Then what do you need? You. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because fear sometimes escapes wearing the wrong mask. You don't even know me. I know enough. He picked up a thin file from the marble table. Without opening it. 32 years old. He looked directly into my eyes. Widowed. Another pause. Registered nurse. His gaze never left mine. One child. Every fact landed like another brick around my chest. You've been investigating me. I investigate everyone. Why? His answer came without hesitation. Because someone wants you dead. The room became impossibly still. I searched his face for deception. Found none. Who? I don't know. You expect me to believe that? I expect nothing. He turned toward the fire. The people hunting you believe you can lead them to me. I frowned. That doesn't make any sense. No. His reflection flickered inside the flames. It doesn't. Then he faced me again. So we're going to let them keep believing it. The meaning hit me all at once. No. His silence confirmed it. No. They'll expose themselves. You want to use me. I want to catch them. You want me to be the bait. Neither of us spoke. Outside, thunder rolled across the estate. Inside, the fire cracked softly between us. Finally, Damien answered with the honesty I hated most. Yes. I stared at the man who could command an empire with a whisper. Then I thought about Noah sleeping somewhere above us. And for the first time in years, I realized my life no longer belonged only to me. Some people mistake courage for the absence of fear. The truth is, courage is saying yes while every heartbeat begs you to run. I didn't sleep. Not really. I lay awake in a bedroom larger than my entire apartment, staring at a ceiling painted with gold trim while rain tapped softly against floor-to-ceiling windows. Somewhere down the hall, Noah slept peacefully. The nanny had assured me he ate dinner, laughed at an old cartoon, and fell asleep holding his dinosaur. That should have comforted me. Instead, it reminded me how easily this place could imitate safety. At 6 the next morning, someone knocked once. Ms. Bennett. The same silver-haired man. Mr. Moretti is waiting. I followed him through endless corridors lined with oil paintings whose silent eyes seemed to watch every step. The mansion smelled of polished wood, fresh coffee, and money that had existed for generations. Damien stood outside, not in an office, not in a conference room, on a shooting range hidden behind the estate. The sharp crack of a pistol echoed across the empty field. He lowered the weapon without looking at me. 5 shots, 5 perfect holes through the center of a distant target. One of his men handed him another magazine. Damien inserted it with practiced ease. You came. I didn't have much choice. No. Another shot. But you still came. Silence stretched between us. Finally, he placed the pistol on the table. I want you to meet someone. A black SUV rolled onto the range. A young man stepped out wearing an expensive navy suit. Early 30s. Confident smile. Too confident. This, Damien said, is Ethan Cross. Ethan shook my hand warmly. I've heard a lot about you. I wish I could say the same. He laughed. I'll take that as honesty. Damien watched the exchange with unreadable eyes. Then he finally explained. For the next several days, Ethan will remain close to you. As security? No. My stomach tightened. As bait. I stared at him. I thought I was the bait. You are. He paused. So is he. Nothing about this made sense. Damien walked toward a digital screen mounted beside the range. One image appeared. A blurry surveillance photo. Me. Leaving Noah's school. Another image. A man sitting inside a parked sedan across the street. Then another. The same sedan. Different day. Different location. They followed you for 18 days. I leaned closer. I never noticed. They're professionals. He tapped the screen again. The license plate changed. Different vehicle. Same driver. They rotate cars. Cold spread through my chest. They've been watching Noah? Yes. My knees weakened. Damien noticed. Without thinking, he reached toward my elbow. His fingers stopped an inch away. As if he'd remembered he wasn't supposed to touch me. He lowered his hand. They've never approached him. Yet. No. His answer was quiet. But they will. Ethan stepped beside the screen. Our job is making sure they choose the wrong day. I looked from one man to the other. You expect me to smile? Go shopping? Pretend everything is normal while strangers wait for someone to kill me? No. Damien's voice remained perfectly level. I expect you to be exactly who you've always been. Why? Because lies are difficult to maintain. He wasn't wrong. That irritated me even more. What happens if your plan fails? It won't. And if it does? His gray eyes met mine. For the first time, I saw something almost human beneath all that control. I'll be there. No dramatic speech. No promises. Just 5 simple words. Oddly, I believed him. Not because I trusted him. Because he sounded like a man making a promise to himself. A black sedan suddenly appeared on the monitor. The surveillance feed had switched to the mansion's front gate. One of Damien's guards touched the earpiece hidden beneath his collar. They're here. Every conversation stopped. Every man on the range turned toward the screen. The sedan slowed outside the gates. Didn't enter. Didn't leave. It simply waited. Watching. Damien slipped the pistol back into its holster. They've started moving sooner than expected. His eyes never left the monitor. Then he looked at me. The game has begun. For reasons I couldn't explain. The way he said those words made me feel as though someone, somewhere, had been waiting years for this exact morning. The strangest memories are the ones your heart recognizes before your mind ever does. The black sedan disappeared before anyone could stop it. One moment, it was parked beyond the estate gates. The next, it melted back into morning traffic as if it had never existed. Damien didn't order a pursuit. He simply watched the security monitor until the screen showed nothing but an empty road. They wanted us to see them, he said quietly. Ethan frowned. Why? Because patience is another form of intimidation. No one argued. Inside the mansion, the atmosphere shifted without a single command. Men who had been relaxed moments earlier now checked radios, exchanged coded messages, and disappeared into different wings of the estate. The game had entered a new phase. I found Noah in the library. He was sitting cross-legged beside a fireplace, carefully building a castle from wooden blocks while the nanny read him a story. He looked up and smiled. "Mom, look." His tiny castle leaned to one side. "It has secret doors." I smiled despite everything. "Does it? So bad people can't find us." My smile faded before I could stop it. Children always understood more than adults wanted to believe. The nanny quietly stood. "I'll prepare lunch." As she left, Noah climbed into my lap. "Are we going home today?" The question pierced deeper than I expected. "I hope so." He studied my face with innocent seriousness. "You say that when you don't know." I kissed the top of his head. He was right. An hour later, another knock came. This time it was Damien himself. "I need a few minutes." No greeting. No apology. Only certainty. I followed him onto a terrace overlooking endless gardens where fountains drowned out distant conversations. For several moments, neither of us spoke. Finally, he asked, "Do you always put your son's fears before your own?" I looked at him. "Isn't that what parents do?" His expression remained unreadable. I wouldn't know. Something in those 3 words lingered. Not sadness. Absence. As if an entire chapter of his life had simply never been written. He rested both hands on the stone railing. "My people reviewed every year of your life. I'm aware. Nothing connects you to me. Because nothing does." His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "That's what bothers me." I folded my arms. "You think I'm lying. I think I'm missing something." The wind lifted a strand of my hair across my face. Without thinking, I tucked it behind my ear. His eyes followed the movement. For the briefest second, everything around us disappeared. His gaze fixed on my right shoulder. Not my face. My shoulder. His expression changed. Barely. A flicker. Confusion. Recognition. Gone before I could understand it. "What?" He looked away immediately. "Nothing." Liar. The word escaped before I could stop it. To my surprise, he didn't seem offended. Instead, he asked, "How did you get that scar?" I froze. My fingers instinctively touched the small mark hidden beneath my sweater near my collarbone. Most people never noticed it. I was told it happened during an accident. When? I don't remember. "How old were you?" 24. His breathing slowed. "What kind of accident?" I shrugged. "I woke up in a hospital." My memory was blurry. I'd lost a lot of blood. The moment those words left my mouth, something shifted inside him. Not visibly, not completely, but enough. His gray eyes became distant, staring somewhere beyond the gardens, beyond the mansion, beyond the present. A flash, a rain-soaked alley, red emergency lights, someone screaming, a young woman collapsing into his arms, blood soaking a pale sweater. He blinked. The vision vanished. His hand unconsciously closed into a fist. I watched him carefully. "What did you remember?" He answered too quickly. "Nothing." I had spent years reading frightened patients in emergency rooms. People always revealed the truth in what they tried hardest to hide. "You've seen that scar before." Silence. "You know something." More silence. Finally, he looked at me again. His voice had lost its usual certainty. "No." He paused. "I've seen one exactly like it." Before I could ask another question, his phone vibrated. Ethan's voice burst through the speaker. "Boss." Damien answered without taking his eyes off me. "What is it?" "We found something." A pause. Then 4 words that drained every trace of color from Damien's face. "It's an old hospital file." For the first time since I'd met him, the man everyone feared looked as though he feared a piece of paper. Sometimes the truth doesn't knock on your door. It waits inside an old file, until you're finally afraid enough to open it. Damien didn't wait for the elevator. He took the stairs, 2 at a time. I followed close behind while Ethan struggled to keep pace. The mansion, usually calm and disciplined, now pulsed with quiet urgency. Guards stepped aside the instant Damien appeared, lowering their eyes without being asked. No one spoke. Even they sensed something had changed. The security office occupied the lowest level of the estate. Steel doors, concrete walls, rows of monitors displaying every corner of the property. A single man stood beside the largest screen, holding a weathered manila folder with white gloves, as though the paper itself carried dangerous secrets. "I found it in an archived hospital database," he said. It was flagged under a sealed emergency admission. Damien reached for the folder, then stopped. His hand remained suspended in the air for a brief second. Fear. Real fear. It was the first genuine emotion I had ever seen on his face. Finally, he opened it. The room fell silent except for the soft hum of computers. The first page showed a hospital admission report dated 8 years earlier. Gunshot wound. Female. Unknown identity upon arrival. Emergency surgery. Blood loss. Condition. Critical. Damien turned the page. His breathing became slower. A photograph. Taken after surgery. The woman's face was pale beneath oxygen tubes. Bruises covered one side of her forehead. Most of her hair had been shaved away. I leaned closer. Something about the woman felt strangely familiar. Not because I recognized her. Because I almost recognized myself. No. The whisper escaped before I realized I'd spoken. Damien looked at the name typed beneath the photograph. Unknown female. No identification. No family. No emergency contact. Another page. The surgeon's notes. Bullet entered through the upper shoulder. Exit wound narrowly missed the heart. Expected permanent scar near the collarbone. Without thinking, my hand rose to the scar hidden beneath my sweater. The room suddenly felt too small. Ethan looked between Damien and me. What is it? No one answered. Damien continued reading. Then another document slipped from the folder. A folded evidence envelope. Inside rested a simple silver necklace. A tiny angel pendant. Time stopped. The air disappeared from my lungs. My fingers instinctively reached for my neck. Empty. I had known that necklace in years. My voice cracked. I had one exactly like that. Damien slowly lifted his eyes. You had. My husband told me I lost it after my accident. The words echoed through the room. Accident. Damien stared at me so intensely it almost hurt. There wasn't an accident. Silence. I blinked. What? His voice remained calm. Too calm. You were shot. The sentence shattered something inside me. No. You were. I would have remembered. Trauma doesn't always ask permission before stealing memories. My knees weakened. I grabbed the edge of the table. Fragments. Not memories. Feelings. Rain. Sirens. Someone shouting. Warm blood running across my hand. A man kneeling beside me. Gray eyes. Then. Nothing. I squeezed my temples. It doesn't make sense. It will. Damien's voice had changed. The distance between us no longer felt cold. It felt heavy, as though every second carried the weight of years. Ethan broke the silence. Boss. He pointed toward the final document. It wasn't random. Damien unfolded the last page. It was a police incident summary. Most of the report had been blacked out. Only one sentence remained visible. Primary target, Damien Moretti. Secondary casualty, unidentified female who intervened. No one breathed. The words settled over the room like falling ash. I stared at the paper, then at Damien, then back again. I intervened. He couldn't answer. Not because he didn't know, because he finally did. The man who had used me as bait had just learned that years before, I had unknowingly stepped between him and a bullet meant to end his life. His empire had survived because of a woman whose name he had never known. And somewhere inside the broken pieces of my forgotten past, I realized the stranger I feared most might have been the last face I saw before darkness swallowed everything. The hardest debt to repay isn't measured in money. It's measured in the years you spent hating yourself for forgetting the person who saved you. No one moved. The security room, filled with glowing monitors and humming servers, felt impossibly still. The report remained on the table. Primary target, Damien Moretti. Secondary casualty, unidentified female who intervened. I read the sentence again and again. Each time, it felt less like ink on paper and more like a memory trying to claw its way back into my mind. I don't remember. My voice barely existed. I don't remember any of this. Damien never looked away from me. Neither accusation nor pity lived in his eyes. Only disbelief, directed at himself. He picked up another document from the folder. This wasn't included in the police report. His voice had become rougher, less controlled. It was a statement from the trauma surgeon. Patient regained consciousness briefly before surgery. When informed that the male victim had survived, patient smiled and said. Damien stopped reading. His jaw tightened. Ethan quietly asked, "What did she say?" For several long seconds, Damien couldn't answer. Finally, almost in a whisper, he read the final line. Good. Then it was worth it. Silence. I covered my mouth. The words stirred something deep inside me. Not a picture, not a face, just a feeling. Warm relief, then unbearable darkness. A tear rolled down my cheek before I noticed it. I said that. Damien nodded once. His eyes were red. Barely. Almost invisible. Yet impossible to ignore. I spent 8 years trying to find the woman who disappeared from that hospital. I looked at him. You looked for me? Every hospital. Every word sounded heavier than the last. Every shelter. Another pause. Every missing person database. I couldn't breathe. You never found me. The records ended. He swallowed. Someone changed your identity to protect you. Ethan quietly added. The hospital was attacked the same night. I turned toward him. What? The surveillance archives were destroyed. The witness list disappeared. The only surviving evidence was hidden under a restricted emergency file. My thoughts spun wildly. If I lost my memory. Damien finished the sentence. You never knew who you saved. Neither of us spoke. The truth stood silently between us. 8 years. He had searched for a stranger. I had mourned an accident that never happened. The silence broke when Damien slowly stepped closer. For the first time since we met, there was no distance left between us. Only a single step. I owe you my life. His voice was almost unrecognizable. Quiet. Human. I used you. Another step. I placed you in danger. He looked toward the scar beneath my collarbone. Without knowing you had already taken a bullet meant for me. His shoulders, always perfectly straight, seemed heavier now. As though the empire he carried had suddenly become insignificant. I can't change what I did. He paused. But I can change what happens next. Before I could answer, alarms exploded throughout the mansion. A sharp electronic pulse echoed through every hallway. Red emergency lights flashed across the security room. One of the guards shouted into his radio. Perimeter breach. Another voice followed immediately. Vehicle approaching the east gate. Ethan rushed toward the monitors. 3 black SUVs. No identification. Driving directly toward the estate. Too fast. Far too fast. They're not slowing down. The first SUV smashed through the outer barricade. Metal screamed against metal. Concrete shattered. Every screen lit up with armed figures pouring from the vehicles. Damien's expression transformed in an instant. The guilt vanished. The boss returned. He pulled a pistol from beneath his jacket with practiced speed. Then he looked at me. Not as bait. Not as a witness. Not even as the woman who had saved him. He looked at me as though my life had suddenly become the only order that mattered. Take Claire and Noah to the panic room. No, I protested instinctively. You need to. I gave you one dangerous assignment. His voice was calm despite the chaos erupting outside. I won't make the same mistake twice. Gunfire erupted beyond the mansion walls. The first explosion shook the entire estate. Dust drifted from the ceiling. Somewhere upstairs, Noah was still sleeping. And for the first time in years, Damien Moretti wasn't running toward his empire. He was running toward my son. The people who truly change your life are the ones you run toward without thinking, not because you owe them, but because losing them is no longer an option. The explosion shook the mansion like an earthquake. Crystal shattered somewhere above us. The lights flickered once, twice. Then emergency power flooded the corridors in deep crimson. Every alarm blended into a single relentless pulse. Move. Survive. Protect. The guards rushed toward the eastern wing with military precision. Damien did the opposite. He sprinted upstairs. Toward Noah. Boss. Ethan shouted. They're breaching the courtyard. Damien never slowed. Hold them. 3 words. Nothing more. He disappeared into the staircase. I ran after him. Claire. Ethan called. The panic room is this way. Noah is upstairs. So are armed men. I don't care. For the first time since arriving at the estate, I wasn't afraid of the attackers. I was afraid of being separated from my son. Another explosion echoed through the halls. The smell of smoke drifted inside. A security window burst somewhere nearby. Voices filled the mansion. Commands. Footsteps. The unmistakable crack of gunfire. By the time I reached the 2nd floor, Damien had already kicked open the bedroom door. Empty. The blankets were tossed aside. The dinosaur was lying on the floor. But Noah wasn't there. Every muscle in my body froze. Noah. No answer. The nanny stumbled out from the connecting bathroom, trembling. They took him. My heart stopped. What? There were 2 men dressed like security. She was crying so hard she could barely breathe. They knew his name. They said Mr. Moretti sent them. They took him through the west hallway. I didn't wait to hear another word. Noah. I ran, barefoot across polished marble floors, ignoring every shouted warning behind me. Damien caught my wrist before I reached the hallway intersection. Listen to me. Let me go. They're using him. I know. They want us separated. I don't care. My voice cracked. He's my son. For one heartbeat, neither of us moved. Then Damien released my wrist. Not because I'd won. Because he understood. I'm coming with you. His tone left no room for argument. The west corridor was strangely quiet. Too quiet. One abandoned radio lay on the carpet. A trail of muddy footprints disappeared toward the service elevators. Damien crouched beside them. Size 11. He touched the wet print. Military boots. He looked toward the elevator. They planned this. The doors stood open. Inside, another stuffed dinosaur. Noah's. I collapsed to my knees and picked it up. It was still warm. They were just here. My hands trembled uncontrollably. Damien pressed a finger against the communication device in his ear. Ethan. Static. Then. I'm here. Lock every exit. Already done. No. Damien's voice hardened. Nobody leaves. A pause. Then Ethan answered quietly. Boss. We have another problem. What? The surveillance server. It was hacked. Damien's eyes narrowed. When? 6 minutes before the attack. 6 minutes. Before the first vehicle crashed through the gates. Before the alarms. Before anyone knew. Someone inside the estate had opened the door for them. A traitor. Damien slowly looked around the silent corridor. His expression became colder than I had ever seen. They didn't come for my empire. He looked at the dinosaur clutched against my chest. They came for Noah. At that exact moment, every television screen mounted throughout the hallway flickered to life. Black. Static. Then a single live camera appeared. A dim warehouse. Concrete walls. One hanging light. Noah sat tied to a chair, frightened but unharmed. A masked man stepped into view behind him. His distorted voice echoed through the speakers. Good evening, Mr. Moretti. He rested a hand on Noah's shoulder. You've spent 8 years looking for the woman who saved your life. A slow, mocking laugh followed. You finally found her. The man tilted his head toward the camera. So we decided to take the one life she'll never stop trying to save. The screen froze. The signal vanished. The hallway fell silent once more. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I could only stare at the empty screen. Beside me, Damien's face revealed nothing. No anger. No panic. Only a terrifying calm. The kind of calm that comes from a man who has just realized this was never an attack on his organization. It was a declaration of war against his family. The strongest man isn't the one who never loses. He's the one who finally discovers what is worth saving. No one spoke after the screen went black. The silence felt heavier than the explosions outside. I couldn't stop staring at the empty monitor, hoping it would flicker back to life. It didn't. My knees threatened to give out. Damien reached for the stuffed dinosaur still clutched in my hands. He didn't take it. He simply rested his fingers lightly against it. He'll come home. His voice was calm. Certain. Not because he knew. Because he had decided. I searched his face for doubt. Found none. Ethan hurried into the hallway, carrying a tablet connected to the estate's surveillance network. We recovered part of the transmission. Damien looked up. Show me. The warehouse video replayed frame by frame. Not Noah. The room. Concrete pillars. A rusted loading door. A broken clock hanging on one wall. Nothing useful. Then Ethan froze the image. Here. A reflection. Barely visible inside a cracked window. Not one captor. 2. One of them wore an earpiece identical to those used by Damien's own security team. The traitor, Ethan whispered. Damien nodded once. He wanted us to see him. Why? Because confident people always leave signatures. He zoomed farther. There, on the man's wrist. A silver watch engraved with the crest of the Moretti organization. Only senior members ever received one. It came from inside, Ethan said quietly. It always did. Damien wasn't angry. Not anymore. Anger clouded judgment. He looked focused. He turned toward every guard gathered in the hallway. No retaliation. Several men exchanged confused glances. No roadblocks. More confusion. No public response. Ethan frowned. You'll let them think they're winning? Damien answered without hesitation. I'm going to let them believe they chose the battlefield. His phone vibrated. A private line. He answered immediately. No greeting. Only silence. The distorted voice returned. You've become sentimental, Damien. Damien remained expressionless. What do you want? I already have it. A brief pause. The boy is safe. I grabbed Damien's sleeve. Put him on. The caller chuckled softly. His mother. Another pause. You've always been the problem. My heart pounded. What have I ever done to you? You existed. The line went quiet for several seconds before the voice continued. 8 years ago, you ruined a perfect plan. Fragments flashed through my mind. Rain. Headlights. Someone shouting my name. Then pain. So, the caller whispered. This time I simply removed the reason you'll stand in front of another bullet. The connection ended. I couldn't breathe. Damien lowered the phone slowly. He knows. What? Your memories are returning. Ethan looked toward him. What now? Damien walked toward the shattered window overlooking the estate. Smoke drifted above the gardens. Emergency vehicles approached from the distance, their lights painting the rain in shades of blue and red. For 8 years, he said quietly, I built an empire powerful enough that no one could threaten me. He turned back toward us. I was wrong. His gray eyes settled on me. Power protects buildings. Then he looked at Noah's dinosaur. Love protects people. He slipped the toy carefully into his coat pocket. A gesture so small it almost broke me. This ends tonight. Not with revenge. Not with rage. With resolve. Ethan stepped closer. I've traced the transmission. Where? Pier 47. An abandoned shipping terminal on the river. One entrance. Hundreds of empty containers. The perfect place to disappear. Damien picked up his coat. For years, he had entered every battle to defend his name. Tonight, he wasn't going for his reputation. He wasn't going for his empire. He wasn't even going to settle an old score. He was going because somewhere in the darkness, a little boy was waiting for his mother. And the man who had once been saved by Claire Bennett had finally realized there was only one way to repay that debt. He would bring her son home. Or he wouldn't come home at all. The greatest victories are never the ones that change the world. They're the ones that finally change your heart. The rain returned as we reached Pier 47. Cold. Relentless. The abandoned shipping terminal stood like a forgotten monument beside the river, surrounded by rusted containers and broken floodlights swaying in the wind. Everything looked deserted, which meant it wasn't. Damien raised one hand. His men disappeared into the darkness without a sound. No shouted orders. No flashing lights. Only quiet determination. He looked at me one last time. You stay behind me. I'm coming. You are. His gray eyes softened almost imperceptibly. But you're not taking another bullet for me. Before I could answer, a child's voice echoed through the warehouse. Mom. Noah. I ran toward the sound. The massive steel door slid open. There he was, tied to a chair beneath a single hanging light. Crying. Alive. I rushed forward. Claire. Damien's voice thundered behind me. Too late. A red laser settled on my chest. Then another. And another. Snipers. Hidden among the upper catwalks. The masked man stepped from the shadows, applauding slowly. I wondered how long it would take. Damien moved in front of me without hesitation. His broad shoulders completely blocked my view. Let the boy go. The man laughed. You still don't understand. He removed his mask. Gasps echoed through the warehouse. Ethan. No, not Ethan. His older brother. Lucas Cross. The former strategist everyone believed had died years earlier. It was always me, Lucas said calmly. I arranged the ambush 8 years ago. My heartbeat stopped. I watched her jump in front of you. He smiled without warmth. And I watched you spend nearly a decade searching for a ghost. Damien's jaw tightened. You destroyed your own family. Lucas shrugged. Power demands sacrifice. No. Damien's voice was steady. Only cowards call betrayal a sacrifice. Lucas raised his pistol. So tell me, Damien, if I kill the boy, will she save him? Or save you? Time slowed. The gun fired. Everything became instinct. I moved. Not toward Damien. Toward Noah. At the exact same moment, Damien threw himself toward me. The bullet shattered a chain holding one of the suspended cargo hooks. Thousands of pounds of steel crashed downward between us and Lucas, sending sparks and debris across the warehouse. Chaos erupted. Damien's guards stormed the catwalks. Lucas's men scattered. Gunfire echoed through the terminal. Hidden behind the fallen crane, Damien reached Noah first. He cut the ropes with a folding knife and lifted the frightened little boy into his arms. It's okay. Noah buried his face against Damien's shoulder. I want my mommy. You've got her. Damien carried him straight to me. Not to safety. To me. I wrapped Noah so tightly he squeaked. Then small arms circled both of our necks. We're all here, he whispered. We're all here. By dawn, it was over. Lucas had been arrested after trying to escape through the river docks. The traitors within the organization were gone. The storm had finally passed. Weeks later, I stood outside a small house overlooking a quiet lake. No guards. No armored vehicles. No fear. Noah chased ducks across the grass, laughing louder than I had ever heard. Behind me, footsteps approached. Damien handed me a small velvet box. Inside rested a simple silver angel pendant, the same one I had lost 8 years earlier. I think this belongs to you. Tears blurred my vision. You kept it. I spent years hoping I'd find the woman who wore it. I looked at him. You did. He smiled. The first real smile I had ever seen. Not from a mafia boss. Just from a man who had finally laid down the weight of his past. He gently took my hand. Not to possess it. Not to control it. Only to hold it. The morning sun reflected across the lake as Noah ran back toward us, laughing. For years, Damien Moretti believed power was measured by the lives he could command. Claire Bennett had taught him something far greater. The strongest man is not the one everyone fears. He is the one a child runs toward. And a woman no longer has to shield from the bullets of yesterday.